Before the story begins, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and like. This will help the channel grow. The Clockmaker's Secret, a detective mystery story. The clock struck midnight when Detective Arthur Hayes stepped into the narrow cobblestone street of Old Belhaven. Snowflakes drifted between the gas lamps, melting on the brim of his hat. Inside the small clockmaker's shop, time had stopped, quite literally. Benjamin Crow, the town's oldest clockmaker, lay motionless beside his workbench. Every clock in the room had frozen at 11:59, their pendulums mid-swing, their ticks silenced as if by command. Hayes crouched beside the body. No blood. No struggle. On the bench, a note scrawled in neat cursive. "To stop time is to stop guilt." The detective's eyes wandered to a curious contraption, a pocket watch unlike any he'd seen. Its glass face was cracked, and inside the mechanism ticked backward. He closed his notebook slowly. Someone wanted him quiet before midnight. But why stop the clocks? At Crow's workshop, Hayes found dozens of photographs pinned above the desk, most of them portraits of clocks and customers. But one stood out, a young woman in a dark coat, standing beside Benjamin Crow with a faint, uneasy smile. On the back, a date, April 12, 1923, and the words, "Time belongs to her now." Hayes traced the woman's identity to Margaret Vane, Crow's former apprentice, who had vanished 5 years earlier after an explosion in the old foundry. He visited her last known address, an abandoned apartment above a bookstore. Inside, he found dusty shelves, sketches of intricate gears, and an unfinished letter. Benjamin doesn't understand. The watch doesn't measure time, it bends it. Once he sets it right, we'll both be free. A sudden creak behind him, the floorboards groaned. Hayes turned sharply, but the apartment was empty. Only a faint ticking echoed from somewhere deep inside the walls. The next morning, Hayes visited the Horologists' Guild Museum, where Benjamin Crow's inventions were once displayed. The curator, a pale man named Mr. Linton, greeted him nervously. Crow was eccentric, Linton said. He believed every clock he made stored a memory, and that when one stops, that memory dies. In a glass case near the back, Hayes noticed a familiar design, the backward-ticking pocket watch. But this one was labeled Prototype Number 1, property of M. Vane. Who owns it now? Linton hesitated. A collector purchased it last year. A recluse who lives near the docks. Name's Elric Voss. That evening, Hayes found Voss's residence, a decaying townhouse filled with mechanical parts and candle smoke. On a velvet cushion sat dozens of identical watches, all ticking in reverse. And from the shadows, a hoarse voice murmured, "You shouldn't have come looking for her, detective. Time doesn't like to be chased." Hayes returned to the police archives to trace Margaret Vane's disappearance. The foundry explosion report revealed something odd. No body was ever recovered. Only a melted clock face was found, fused to a copper key. He placed it beside the broken watch from Crow's desk. The designs matched perfectly. They weren't just timepieces. They were connected. That night, Hayes dreamt of gears turning endlessly in darkness, of a woman whispering behind the sound of ticking. When he woke, his wristwatch was running backward. A call came at dawn. The morgue attendant reported that Benjamin Crow's body was missing. The door had remained locked from the inside, yet every clock in the building had stopped at 3:33 a.m. Hayes muttered. Then she's still out there. Hayes tracked the last clues to the Belhaven clock tower, where Crow and Vane had worked years before. The staircase creaked under his boots as he climbed into the freezing air. Inside the clock chamber, every gear was turning in reverse. And there she was, Margaret Vane, pale, serene, standing by the mechanism with a small glowing device in her hands, the original pocket watch. "You can't bring him back," Hayes said quietly. "I already did," she whispered. But not in this moment. With one twist of the watch's dial, the air shimmered, the tower filled with the echo of chimes, backward, haunting, endless. Hayes saw flashes of Crow's face, then his own, fading in and out like ghosts. "You're unmaking time," he shouted. She smiled. "Only the parts that hurt." The town awoke to silence. No ticking, no chimes, just stillness. Hayes found himself outside the clock tower, as if no time had passed at all. His watch now read 11:59 frozen. Inside his pocket lay the broken backward watch, cracked open, and a note inside. "To stop guilt is to stop time. But time always starts again." He walked through the empty streets, past the shop where Benjamin Crow once worked. The lights were on again. And at the counter, smiling softly, was Margaret Vane, winding a clock that ticked forward once more. Hayes said nothing. He simply checked his own watch. It started ticking again, but each second felt slower than the last.